Hey everybody, CNOTE here, and welcome to the CNOTE Audio Extravaganza. This is your host, Mr. Christian Rivera, with the show that is kind of like Chinese meat. You don't really know what's going on, but you're going to eat it, and it's good, so you're going to go with it. I am, again, getting dressed in the morning and preparing for my day. Not a lot going on. I've got a video to edit, but it's really more of like an alternate of a video, so it's not going to be too much work. Probably get a lunchtime drink with some coworkers. It's the last few days at work, so everyone is very excited to hang out and get in the last few moments of spending time with their beloved CNOTE. Which, hey, if it was me in that position, I would do the same, because I enjoy me as well. Anyway, today I wanted to talk about Me Too and Manhood. Me Too meaning, if you are not familiar with what's been going on, it is a current movement on Facebook, and I think it's a very clever and interesting movement, where women are sharing either the hashtag or the words Me Too on Facebook. I think people have been doing it on Twitter and Instagram as well, but I haven't seen it anywhere else. I haven't been looking for it anywhere else, but I'm sure it's there. And basically, it's in reference to women comfortably, through these few small words, speaking out about sexual abuse and inappropriate behavior that they've experienced towards them. Men making inappropriate advances, saying terrible words to them, even, no matter how big or how small. I've heard some crazy, horrendous stories about men, being very explicit in their advances, while others are, being a little bit more subtle, but also kind of abusing their power of manhood to sort of push their weight around, or unconsciously. And I say unconsciously because a lot of these dudes do it unconsciously, use their understanding that in the workplace they'll often not be the one accused or given the difficulty for being a sexual harasser, which is something that still very much needs to change. And men themselves need to take more responsibility for their actions and what they say and how they approach women, because they know that they are doing this. They often don't know the nuances of why they can do it and why they feel that they can get away with it. Sneeze cast. 2017. I want to talk for as long as I can, but my throat is killing me, so I apologize if I cut early. These sneezes aren't helping. Sneezes aren't helping at all. Starting to get sick, which is not good when I have to start driving across the country in 2 days. Just listen to me sneeze for the last 2 minutes. Jeez. But I wanted to talk about... I'm tearing up. About manhood and how men should be taking more... this is not good. Taking more responsibility for their actions, their words, and teaching young men to be respectful as well. And it goes beyond just being respectful to women. In a sexual context, it means being respectful in all cases. And I'm going to even say that I understand, in some sense, that the male urge for women is very difficult to tame. Meaning, I understand that it's very intense, that it can be, because we're masculine and there's testosterone, it comes out aggressively, and I think a lot of men are not so in tune or self-aware with themselves that they, or have been taught appropriately to be appropriate, that they let those innate desires control them. And I understand the innate desires are bad and difficult, but they are surmountable, so let's talk about it.
Please.
H-I-L-L-Y, north, west, south side, right, H-I-R-Y, yeah, now here it is.
So I'm going to start with a disclaimer, because this topic is very tricky to navigate. I have no problem speaking openly about it, and I have no problem with the repercussions that might come for any kind of slip-ups, saying anything wrong, because I'm welcome to being corrected. My intention is not to belittle anyone, men or women. My intention is not to pretend like I'm the expert. My sole purpose here is to speak from a point of reaction to how I'm feeling about all of this, because I think, for me, I'm unfortunately not surprised by the amount of women that have experienced sexual abuse in some shape or form. And it's just sad even more to see it realized this way. And sad that more women can't, feel that they feel helpless and they can't really do anything about it. In this case, they can speak up in solidarity, and I think that's incredibly amazing. That they don't even have to, explain the details. All they have to do is say that it happened. And there are a lot of men who are surprised that this is a thing, and there are a lot of men who are trying to belittle them again and tell them that this is not, their version of sexual assault is not appropriate or acceptable, which is bullshit, for lack of a better word. And often sexual abuse, from my understanding of it, is a power play. A lot of men, we're very instinctually concerned with control. Being alpha or not. Our very basic instinct is to reproduce, to quote-unquote collect women, which is real fucked up to say, but our very, very basic instinct is to spread our seed to as many women as possible. It's real fucked, but it's, what it is. And that doesn't mesh very well in the modern society, which has manifested in many ways to make the males more of the dominant sex and essentially control the behaviors of women to have better chance of getting to them, as opposed to, which is like founded on manipulation or belittling them and making women feel inferior so that they seek out support from men to basically confide in them and provide their vaginas to them, which is real shitty. You didn't need that commentary. You know that it's shitty. So really, that's kind of like the macro perspective. I know that there are good men out there, and this is not for you. If you're the person that's saying, like, not all guys, well, I'm probably not talking to you. Or I could be. If you gotta know it yourself, basically. You've got to know that if you're feeling inferior, you're more likely to go after women in an inappropriate manner to make yourself feel better. And that's really where it starts. Men, gentlemen, sirs. I'm going to put you down for a second. And I'm going to try to speak louder. But, a lot of men's advances are rooted in insecurity, which seems to be a problem with all people in a lot of things when it comes to trying to regain control of people. In this case, physical control of women or possession of women. It is just not okay to project your insecurity on women and feel like your domination of women is an appropriate expression of your manhood. And that's a problem, because you need to seek the love of yourself and your masculinity, your manhood, in other ways. You need to find ways to feel more confident in yourself. And in the next segment or two, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit more detail, about how you could subvert your insecure desires or your insecure actions into a just sort of like reframing your mind. But I also want to talk about the perspective of men and how we view women as a whole. So yeah, let's do that. I think one of the early arguments that a lot of men lean towards in this context is like, okay, so I can't hit on women then? What the hell? Like, I like women. And hey, that's true and that's okay. You're allowed to be attracted to someone. You're allowed to approach them. You're allowed to talk to them. You're allowed to be respectful for them. But you're also allowed to back off when they say no. Or, I know a lot of men are persistent and they don't want to take no for an answer. And I understand as a male, sometimes that's very difficult. What I mean when I say, when she says no, is in that moment to back off. Like literally in that second, back off. Maybe another opportunity will present itself and you could be, appropriately approach her or befriend her some more, get to know her a little more, and then maybe try again in some sense. But also attempt to be a friend genuinely. You know what I mean? Like, don't just try to be friends with women with the sole intent to sleep with them. That's real fucked up. Like, make your intentions known pretty early on. If you're trying to sleep with someone, like, you could probably ask them early on and saying like, hey, I like you, I think you're interesting, or I think you look great, can I take you out for, I would like to get to know you, And that's really like the earliest, easiest way that you can do that. If she says no, then you back off and you move on. It's really not that hard. I understand that it's frustrating, that rejection's not great, that it's difficult to deal with, but as a man who should feel a little bit more confident in yourself as a person, before you even ask women anything, like, why would you... it is not healthy to expect another person to satiate your insecurity and make you feel better as a person. But it's also not smart to approach a woman when you don't feel confident in yourself, because they can see right through that. They know when you don't feel great about yourself. And often that's what leads to the no, other than you just being creepy or inappropriate, depending on your approach. It's that lack of confidence is massive. It speaks volumes about who you are, about if you're not confident, there are still things about, as much as we're in a world, as much as we're in a world that is pushing more towards gender equality, which is great, it's amazing, there are still things about men, and that's the problem when it comes to, gender divide and racial divide, is this instinctual feeling that men or white people feel an instant inferiority when other people, other genders, other races try to become equal. They feel that becoming equal means that they're becoming inferior, which is not at all true. Your confidence level should remain the same. You should understand that there is value in who you are as a person, regardless of what is changing in other people. Meaning that men hold very strong value when it comes to the marital relationship, to significant others, to society. Men are still, like, equality is not necessarily erasing the value of men as men, and it would not erase the value of women as women, but it's often the definitions of those things that are what is skewed. When a lot of people think of women still, they think of someone who is taking care of the kids and is in the kitchen all day, and that's a fucked up realization. That doesn't help anyone. That's not their identity. That's an expectation. That's a social expectation. And often men, it's like, oh, you gotta be like a lazy football-loving doofus. And that's not true either. It's about being partners. It's about being a confident person. And men in particular still offer a sense of comfort in this world where particularly women are being approached in very strong, aggressive, inappropriate ways, men as a significant other hold value in providing that support, that strength, that sense of security, and thinking about those things and being there for them, and emotional support as well. So you still have value as a man.
If you've been dying to start that podcast about doves, or about your favorite jacket, or about a long-lost love, or a murder mystery about a cat who murdered everybody, you can start it now on Spotify for podcasters. I've been on Anchor for a long time, and now it is officially Spotify for podcasters, and it has been a platform that has been growing for forever. And I love it, and I still use it to this day, and it has hosted this podcast for 500 plus episodes now. So I highly recommend it. It is free to use. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer. So no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. I'm literally on my bed recording on my, the phone is on the bed, and I'm just talking, and it's not that complicated. And then you can distribute your podcast on Spotify and everywhere else that podcasts are heard. So video podcasts are available too if you want to show your pretty face and have people see you. And you can do all that too. So just do it. It's totally free. No catch. Give it a try. Spotify for podcasters. Let's go.
Oh, Anchor, we're going to have at it today, are we? I just posted a segment and it did not post. That's frustrating. But, so, I'm going to try to reiterate the best I can. Essentially, I was talking about how I don't understand the lack of value for women. I understand from, a social perspective. I understand how we got to where we are. Because, as kids, we're really not taught to value girls and women when we're young. We're taught to, don't hit a girl. Don't be mean to girls. And even that's not always taught. But we're shown pretty young that girls are playing with baby dolls and playing with houses and playing with adult responsibility and not exploring free thought or being valued as humans. But they're almost being raised as baby carriers, which is real messed up, when you really think about it. Boys are given trucks and things that advance their things that could lead to a career, playing with fire trucks and police cars and etc. And, girls are still being given baby dolls and stuff, and that doesn't help anyone. It's really kind of garbage, when you think about it. And overall, from the adult male perspective, I don't understand how women are so vastly undervalued. They carry our children. They hold so much intelligent value. They are incredible human beings. Many of the ones that I've come across are some of the best people in life that I know. I've always had a problem with men because men are always so trying to assert themselves. They're always just so concerned with being alpha or not alpha or whatever. And I've always clashed with that because I'm a very confident person. And being a short person, men have always come at me from a assumed dominance perspective. And then when they don't get to me like that, that tarnishes our friendship because it bugs them and they don't like that. They want to be the dominant figure. And that's an unfortunate male instinct thing that we have to work through. And that translates to women as well. They often feel like they need to dominate women in some sense. But it's also in a sense to satiate their insecurity. In the same way that a beta male, quote unquote, will, because I don't really like those terms, but there's no other way to put it. The same way that a beta male will often boast and try to just put their chest out and be super I'm an alpha. And if you have to say you're an alpha, you're not an alpha. It's just not how that works. and that often translates to how they approach women too. They often feel like a possession of women, or the amount of women that they're able to get to, whether that's through genuine means or through social manipulation, is some sort of trophy for their value as a man. And that's shitty. Again, it's about
them trying to satiate their insecurity, and that doesn't help. So you need to find other ways to satiate that insecurity and work towards building yourself as a person. And now I'm talking to men specifically, because we often don't do that after a certain age. We don't focus on improving ourselves. Our life goal ends up being about obtaining a woman, and that is not really, that method is not really taught in a way that is healthy. You know, there's the pickup artist and nightclubs and getting a girl drunk, or, you know, finding ways to inhibit her so that you can have your way, and that it's just terrible. There's no really other way to put it. So in the last segment, I'm going to talk about ways that men can improve their own security so that they can start to treat women with more respect. So I think a lot of these men who approach women with such visceral, aggressive, stalkery, creepy, or tactical social methods are often men who are very insecure with themselves, weren't taught how to approach women, and they feel that their instinct is to just like yell at them or play a numbers game and just be as blunt to as many women as possible, and eventually one of them will say yes. And that's not okay. I don't know how many times I can say that's not okay, but I feel like I'm at least trying to do my part by acknowledging it. But you know, so much of that is rooted in their own insecurity, in ways that they don't know how to approach women. They don't know how to take rejection, and you know, they don't know how to. They weren't taught to value themselves first. Therefore, they seek women to improve their security. And you know, men, we need to work on things with ourselves first. You need to improve the way you present yourself. Improve the way you approach other people. Smile more. Just have casual conversations. You can still compliment women. I compliment women all the time, but in appropriate, nice ways. I see you dyed your hair. It looks great. And the goal of that, the difference between often complimenting someone's new haircut, or the dress that they're wearing, or something else about them, their smile, you can say that. I've even noticed someone that like worked at a Mexican restaurant and she didn't have makeup the day before and put on some makeup today, and I said, "Oh, you look nice today." And that's it. The difference is the intention. Like, often dudes will sound creepy when it's very, very obvious that their intention is to try to sleep with this girl. Which, it doesn't make sense if you're with someone at Starbucks and you see them and you have you like them, you think they're attractive, and you want to say something nice. So you compliment them. That compliment could be a conversation starter if your intent is to get to know them more. But it's not going to be a situation where you compliment their hair and then they're going to drop your pants and start doing things to you. That's a lot of dudes treat it that way. That doesn't make any sense. When you're like it's like holding the door for somebody and getting mad when they don't say thank you. Why are you holding the door in the first place? Like, you need to reassess that. I feel a lot of men need to reassess their core values and how they approach women and their discussions and their confidence in themselves. Because if you explore more your confidence in yourself, the way that you dress, the way you hold yourself, your status in life, your relationships with friends and family, you will find a way to appreciate yourself more and also not take rejection so hard and not take it so personally, because you'll feel good about yourself, and you'll have a better understanding of the fact that, okay, well, she doesn't know me, that makes sense, that's fine. Or she may not be physically attracted to me. That's a normal response.
That's like, women don't owe you anything. Nobody owes you anything. Just because you say you're attracted to a woman doesn't mean she's attracted to you. Doesn't mean she's liable to be attracted to you. And she has to be. It's okay for her to say no. And I don't know how that became a thing where dudes get so upset, they become friends with a girl, and then they finally tell her that they like her. And she says, no, I'm sorry, I'm just not interested. That because they put in the time to be a friend to them, that they deserve to get closer to their vagina. But, like, that doesn't make any sense. It's just not appropriate, it's not fair, and it's a poor understanding of how human physiology works, or psychology, really, because women just don't owe you anything at the end of the day. So I want to backtrack to what my point is, and that's that men need to work on themselves before anything else. Before you even approach women, before you look at women, before you talk to women, you need to feel confident in yourself, in a respectful way. Learn some manners, learn some morals, learn how to speak to people, learn how to smile, and learn the sheer basic fact that women do not owe you anything. Even if you are attracted to them and you like them, I understand how on some loose, visceral, ignorant way you may not understand that your strong feelings are not reciprocated. But there is no specific type that may or may not like you. There is no amount of friendship that could make someone like or not like you. You know, it could be very much the other way around. They could really respect you as a person, but just not be as attracted to you in a sexual or romantic way. And, like, you gotta learn to not take that personally. Because it's not their fault that they're not attracted to you. It's not something they're doing to you. They're not saying that you're doing something. They're not saying that you as a person are what's wrong, or that they as a person are what's wrong. It's that those two things are just not adding up. And that's a very natural, visceral response. Often people, humans, males, females, I don't really understand a lot of the time who I'm attracted to and who I'm not attracted to. Some things are clear, some things are not. There's a lot of nuance that comes with that stuff. So understanding that and having some sense of respect for that fact could help you navigate the rejection that is bound to come with your advances to women, and to better control that. Now, there are other things, there are so many other factors. I'm nowhere near professional. I'm stumbling through this. I'm sure I've said something that's upset someone, and I invite you to please call in and talk about it. I would love to be able to work through this. I just want to start a conversation. I'm not trying to be the be-all, end-all of this conversation. And I know it's very frustrating for women to hear this stuff and for men to hear this stuff. Particularly, it's difficult for men to hear this stuff because, again, that reaction of like, are we just not supposed to be attracted to women? Of course you're allowed to be attracted to women. Of course you're supposed to be attracted to the sex that you want to be attracted to. That's like, I wouldn't even say want to. Like, it's instinctual. I don't know why I like women. Like, I could have liked dudes. I don't, but I could have. And that's like beyond my control. So a lot of that stuff, a lot of this stuff when it comes to attraction, when it comes to psychological little things, like, are too much for the masses to understand. But what we can do is continue to talk about it and continue to voice our opinions, which is why I think this Me Too movement is so amazing, so that we can get it out there and genuinely surprise people who think that everything's okay. That's really the point. That's the point of any kind of social movement. And make strides to let men know that they need to take more responsibility for their actions. They need to take more responsibility for the way that they make advances to women. It's not that you shouldn't make an advance towards a woman, that you shouldn't ask her out, that you shouldn't tell her that you're attracted to her, that you're interested in her, but do it in a respectful way. Like, I mean,
you're more likely to be successful with a woman who is worth it to go after her in a respectful way and say, I'm interested in you, I would like to take you out. It's really not that hard. It really isn't. And somehow we do this convoluted workaround thing. It's like, oh, you know what? Maybe if I tell her pussy's great, then I can go after her. That's not... No. How do you come to that conclusion? What the hell? Talking about that booty and shit, that doesn't... No, that's ridiculous. Stop it. Even if that sort of advance works on a woman, you should be questioning whether or not, that's a safe thing to approach. Know what I mean? STDs, know what I mean? So, it's a very nuanced, difficult conversation. I think we should continue having it. Rival my design on all social channels. And on that note, I'm out. Actually, one last thing. I just want to reiterate that I am not an expert. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. All I'm doing is sharing my opinion and my disdain for the way that a lot of men approach women, and the sheer lack of respect is inappropriate, not cool, and on a larger level, there's so much more to deal with that we can't even begin to understand how to tackle. And all I'm really doing is wanting to share ways that I think we can help, that we can talk about things, and I just want to start a discussion. So if I upset you, I apologize. I welcome your discussion. I welcome your viewpoints. I will share them, and we can talk about this in a more interesting way. I like approaching it from the perspective of manhood because I think that is something that is often discussed in a way that is emotional. Manliness, you know what I mean? And there's so many different interpretations of what that is and what that means. I think ultimately being respectful to everyone, to anyone you come across, being confident, being who you are, without putting anyone down or having to manipulate people to get your way. Those are more strong definitions of manhood, manliness in my world. I think in general that's how it should be, but I get that not everyone is that way. Everyone's raised differently. Everyone has been taught different things and has different perspectives. And this is just mine. So that's that.